I'm a big fan of Rob Tong over at Youth Baseball Edge. Cool kid. He's not afraid to call it BS when he sees it. Kind of like someone else I know.
AI is advancing at warp speed, and in today's video, we're going to talk specifically about an AI called ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is blowing up the internet, and if you don't know what it is, it's an artificially intelligent content creator. It can write essays for you, it can generate unique artwork based on your text description, it can even pass the MBA exam. But can it help you find good drills and plan great practices? As technology advances, ChatGPT may seem like an attractive solution for youth baseball coaches looking to improve their teams. But it's important to remember that technology should not replace the human experience and expertise of a coach. That is not my opinion. That's actually ChatGPT's opinion of itself when I asked it if it would be able to help youth baseball coaches find good drills and plan great practices in the next 3 years. My opinion? It's mostly right and partly wrong. Let me explain. For example, I wanted to know if ChatGPT could help me plan a good practice. So I said, write out efficient weekly 15-year-old baseball practices that last 1.5 hours for the first 3 weeks. Well, it came back with what looks like 2-hour practices instead of 1.5-hour practices. ChatGPT doesn't know how many minutes are in 1.5 hours. For me, this is fine because I'm a believer in not using your practice time for warm-ups. So if we exclude the stretching and warm-up section, then yes, there are 1.5-hour practices. Not sure if other coaches looking at this would come to the same conclusion, but the bigger issue is that it came up with 3 practices per week when I said weekly. Okay, maybe I need to be more specific. So I said, condense that into 1 practice per week, and ChatGPT gave me this. Well, that is definitely 1 practice for the week, but now it's a 4.5-hour practice. I thought this was a good stopping point to ask it what it had in mind for base running in this plan. So I asked ChatGPT, what are the best base running drills that can be done in 30 minutes? It gave me a list of 8 drills, with the first one called leadoff drills, where kids practice taking leads off first base, focusing on proper technique and getting back to the base safely. Okay, pretty good. But what if I don't know what proper technique is? So I asked it, what is considered proper leadoff technique at first base? And ChatGPT gave me this list of 8 things. The first one was starting position, where a player should start in the ready position, with feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, and weight on the balls of their feet. That's a great description of the ready position, but how do I get into the ready position? Do I get into that position while I'm still standing at first base, or when I take a leadoff? And when do I get into that position? 1 foot away from the base? 5 feet away from the base? 10 feet away from first base? 20 feet away from the base? Dude, I'm already lost on step 1 for the starting position. Well, let's say I shrug it off and move on to the second element of proper leadoff technique, which ChatGPT says is timing. A player should time their leadoff to the pitcher's release, not to the pitcher's windup. This allows the player to get a better jump and increase their chances of stealing a base. Now that's just plain wrong. The pitcher's release is obviously later in time than the pitcher's windup. So waiting to lead off and steal until the pitcher's release will decrease their chances of stealing the base, not increase them. To be sure I understood ChatGPT correctly, I asked it a clarifying question. Did you mean the pitcher's release of the ball when pitching to the batter? Yes, I meant the timing of the leadoff to the pitcher's release of the ball when pitching to the batter. A batter should time their leadoff to the pitcher's release of the ball, not the pitcher's windup. This allows the player to get a better jump and increase their chances of stealing a base. By starting as soon as the pitcher releases the ball, the base runner can get a head start. I wondered what would happen if I disagreed with it. So I wrote, doesn't the runner get a quicker jump at the pitcher's first movement to pitch instead of waiting for the pitcher's release of the ball? Now ChatGPT did something interesting. It actually agreed with me, which means it either changed its mind about its prior answer or I confused it. You are correct. This technique is called getting a jump. And there's more misinformation when you read more of some of the things in the list that ChatGPT gave me. Like when ChatGPT said, part of proper leadoff technique is that players should glance back at the base after each step they take to ensure they are not too far away from the base and to check if the pitcher is paying attention to them. If the runner is glancing at the base instead of always keeping an eye on whoever has the ball, whether it's the pitcher or the catcher, then that is poor leadoff technique because they're more likely to be picked off. Okay, but what about hitting drills? Can ChatGPT help coaches with that? I asked, what are the top 3 drills for improving exit velocity in hitting? And it gave me weighted bat drills, tee work, and using their hips and legs to generate power, and pitching machine drills. Okay, tee hitting and hitting off a pitching machine doesn't sound like something a coach wouldn't already know. But weighted bat drills Sounds like something new, but it didn't elaborate. So I asked, explain how to perform the weighted bat drills. It came back with using a heavier bat, take swings without a bat, then hit balls off a tee, then off soft toss, then off live pitching. You gradually increase the weight of the bat over time, monitoring their form, and then gradually decrease the bat weight back down to their game bat. Okay, that's pretty good. It's actually somewhat similar to the program that Driveline prescribes for its weighted bat program. Now I noticed that it says to watch that players maintain good form. Well, what if you don't know what good form means? So I asked, what is correct hitting form? ChatGPT came back with, so one line caught my eye, keeping the bat in a straight line with the ball. So I asked, does that mean the batter should swing level or swing down or swing slightly up? ChatGPT answered, the batter should aim to swing the bat in a level or slightly upward motion. This is often referred to as a level or slightly upward swing plane. This type of swing plane is ideal for hitting line drives and fly balls, as well as for increasing launch angle and exit velocity. Swinging the bat down can lead to ground balls and lower exit velocity. But it said both level swings and slightly up swings are correct. That's partially true, and I elaborated on this in podcast episode 164 in the Ask Rob segment of that show. You can go to youthbaseballedge.com/session164 to listen to that, so I won't repeat it here. But basically, there is a mix of true information along with misinformation in ChatGPT's database, and you have to know how to spot which is which. The nice thing about ChatGPT is that it remembers your prior conversation, so you can ask it follow-up questions. The not so nice thing about it is that it does not know what is misinformation, and you have to be the one that can be able to separate misinformation from true information. And if you don't know what's misinformation, then you could be teaching your kids the wrong things. There's actually a video that showed that you could actually trick ChatGPT into believing that 10 plus 9 equals 20. So it starts with a set of information that it believes are facts, but then it could change based on new information that it receives. And this is why it's so important for you as coaches to be able to know how to separate misinformation from true information about coaching youth baseball, or anything really for that matter, because even ChatGPT can't help you. So whatever you think about ChatGPT and whether it's exciting or alarming, I hope you now have a better understanding of how ChatGPT can and cannot help you when it comes to coaching youth baseball. Basically, it can't replace you if you can spot the difference between true information and misinformation.
It's true.
Now, speaking of true information versus misinformation, if you want to know about that when it comes to teaching hitting, then you're going to want to watch this video right here.
Even an insufferable self-righteous person like me can see the brilliance of Rob Tong and Youth Baseball Edge.